So today, Torch Pro welcomes on former college lacrosse standout goalie at Notre Dame, who actually won 2010 Most Outstanding Player at the NCAA tournament. Played a few years for the Atlas and the PLL, and just an all-around great human, Scotty Rodgers. How are you, man? Excited to dive
What's
in.
going on, man? Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm pumped to be on here.
Yeah, this will be fun. So I want to throw it back to kind of where it all began for you and your career in lacrosse. So where'd you grow up playing the game of lacrosse, and how'd you fall in love with it?
I was always a football player my whole life. I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'4", 275 pounds. I always was a big kid. My dad was my Pee Wee football coach. We would play for the Levittown Red Devils in Long Island, New York, from Long Island. And Pee Wee football, I was always playing 2 grades up, literally I was stripping down to my girdle, and I was sitting there making weight. I was still playing 2 grades higher. And I had some guy come up to us at one of those weigh-ins. I was like, hey, I think you're going to be a great goalie. We need a goalie. It was the Levittown Tomahawks, and I played for the Red Devils, the football team. So I started with a town team, and it was great. And I show up to practice, and now I'm teaching goalie. I teach goalies all over the country and whatever. And I'm like, everyone's scared of the ball, right? When I was that age, I was petrified. I remember I was 7 years old. I was a little chubby kid, and I'm sitting there, and my dad's like, "You're playing goalie." I was like, oh, all right. I'm wearing a back rack helmet with those leather bibs, and I'm using a Play It Again sports stick. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is unbelievable. I love football, and it's a whole different thing. But my first practice, I remember it. My dad actually, literally after practice, tied me in the cage, like that scene out of Mighty Ducks, like Goldberg. I was tied in that cage. I had guys shooting on me, and I was trying to get out of the way, and I couldn't move. And I'm like, God damn it. My dad has notoriously been my role model. If anyone that follows me on social, I always give him. And my mom gives me my character, gives me my little shit to me. She's a Italian mother. So she's no nonsense. She takes no lip. And, used to hit me with the wooden spoon or the heel, when I was a wise ass. But my dad is the worker, man.
Yep.
High school, Marines right to correction officer at Rikers Island in New York City for 20 years. So that dude is he's a hard blue collar dude, man. I don't mess with him to this day. And he's 58 now. He's young still, but he's, he could still, if he wanted to put me in a half Nelson, probably get me. So yeah. So I just, like I said, I started early, and he was a tough guy, and he wasn't gonna let me quit. So
I love it, man. And so you got thrown in right to the goalie position right away, or was it did you ever dabble in attack or defense? Because I wouldn't want to see you with a long pole, that's for sure.
Yeah, I used to ask the same thing, because I had a good stick. I mean, I could catch and throw, so all left, but I wanted to play attack. Every goalie wants to get out there and score. But for me, it was more so I knew I had a leadership kind of, I've been a leader kind of a while, and I knew from my voice, because I've always been a loud guy. I always knew I could get the attention of that defense or kind of get guys where I want them to go. And that's a big part of goaltending. I tell these guys, you could be a great stopper. That's 50% of the job. If you you could get hit with the ball, that's cool. Keep the ball out of the net. There's a lot of little things, intangibles, I call them: leadership, volume, communication, clearing, right? These are little things. You add those up, that kind of makes you good to great. And there's a lot of guys that can stop. You played, a lot of guys can stop the ball, but the guy that could stop the ball, talk, get the guys in the right spot, and also make that save into a possession for the offense, that's the dude that's a complete goal. And that's where I knew I could kind of take a leap,
Yeah, 100%. Super underrated position in my opinion. And so, I mean, I don't, at what age were you comfortable standing in front of shots? Because you couldn't pay me to stand in net right now and get hit by some ball.
I think now it's more so the kids shoot a lot faster now because of the sticks. And I sound like an old man. It's those stick technology, I train 12-year-olds, they're bringing a load of high, and I'm like, Jesus. You know what I mean? When I was 7, I wasn't really worried. You're more worried about getting hit, because you think it's they're playing dodgeball with you. They're trying to hit you in the goal. When you get older, they're trying to pin corners and shoot away from you. So I think when I was about 10, 11, I knew I was going to be a goalie. I also always had an incentive at a young age. I watched how hard my parents worked, and I was very I recognized this early. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a cop. If I wanted to go to school, I always didn't want to put them in a hole. I knew how much college cost, and I could have went to Nassau Community College or went to Hofstra, stayed home, and that's great. but I wanted to see what I could do and use lacrosse as a launch pad to get me somewhere where I can never, ever go without that. So I did. I went to Notre Dame, and I probably am not a Notre Dame. You could ask all those Notre Dame guys, I ain't like them, but they love me because I'm like the redheaded stepchild,
I love it. And so I guess, like, you mentioned your family and you mentioned your parents, but was that your true biggest motivation to succeed, was to get to a place that you couldn't be without a sport?
Listen, and this is where people don't really understand. It's like this chip on my shoulder, this prove people wrong thing is like been with me since I was this big. So naturally going through this, adversity in my career, it's been something I've been kind of geared for, and it's something I like. I like Kyle Harris is one of my great friends, legend in the sport. He's always like, dude, he's been my teammate in Ohio for 6 years. He's like, I've never seen somebody generate more adversity than you, because like I love it. Like I do like it. I'll make something like in my head just to be like, I think that guy thinks I suck. You know what I mean? Just like when I go to the game, I'm amped up and I'm playing with a little like extra chip. And I use that. And some guys hate it, right? But I really do. I enjoy that, having that chip on my shoulder. I enjoy having motivation outside of just preparation,
Yeah, the bulletin board stuff works sometimes.
Yeah, man.
And so now you talk about adversity in your college career at Notre Dame. So you had to work your way into a starting role, right? So you were kind of on the sidelines for those first few seasons. So what was that process like, winning over your coaches, winning over your teammates, and getting that starting job in your final
Yeah,
team?
I mean, Danny, listen, I'm a pretty charismatic guy. Like when I get in a locker room, I was the captain of my class as a freshman. I wanted to always be a leader. And it's just something I've always wanted to do. And I knew there was a guy ahead of me there. I actually committed to Notre Dame as the #1 recruit in Long Island, 2-time All-American, 4-time All-County. In Long Island, that's a big deal. And I went to Notre Dame knowingly with Joey Kemp, who was from Georgetown Prep, a year older than me. And I went there, because I got an opportunity to go to Notre Dame with I think I was like a B student. You know what I mean? I was a B student, and I was like an 1100 on my SATs out of 1600. So, I mean, right off the rip, I had an opportunity I would never have.
Yep.
And besides that, I kind of knew I had to beat this guy out if I wanted to play. And I actually was very confident in my ability at the time. I was a pretty typical Long Island doucher, I got this guy. He's a Maryland guy. I'm a Long Island guy. They kind of like that. And listen, I learned how to eat humble pie very early. Again, and that's something that many guys don't get to the taste at our level, because everyone at the PLL and the pros is the best of the best. And you've been the best of the best most of the time your whole career. So I've been up, down, a backup, a starter, an all-star MVP, a backup, and then a champion, a backup. Like I said, that adversity, those ups and downs, a lot of guys are throwing the towel right away. I've watched so many guys get out of the league. I got a job. No, you didn't have a job. You got cut the one time. You don't want to try it again. And that's a hard pill to swallow, right? If you're a guy for 4 years that plays, and you're a guy that's a stud, and then you go to the pros and they cut you. It's like a humble pie. So I ate that early. I ate that in college. I ate that already, and I fought and scrapped to get to where I was. And I saw what the benefits of hard work were there. Listen, I kept my mouth shut when other guys were, bitching and moaning about playing time and being kind of cancers. I was trying to find ways to impact the team. I honestly was trying to. There's nothing more than like me going extra in the gym and then watching one or two guys trickling this. We used to call it the extra club at Notre Dame, where I would do it. I was the only one. I was working out with the football guys. And then I stayed every summer school at Notre Dame. So every summer for 5 years, I did 5 years. I stayed for 5 summers. And I lifted, and then I watched every year after year 1. 4 more guys stayed this summer. Scotty, you staying? Yeah, I'm staying. Let's train. Oh, you got huge this summer. You made some huge gains. Then that grew to like 20 guys by my senior year. It's like 20 guys staying in the summer. And it's like a culture thing, right? So you kind of do leadership. You're growing as a leader, and you're also doing the work and staying positive and not bringing down other guys with your bitching and moaning of, there's a million guys that don't play, dude,
Yeah, I think it's super important, especially in college lacrosse. There's probably 20 guys that play on game day, and there's another 30 to 40 that sit on the sidelines. So you got to find your spot, and you can contribute in other ways. And the championship teams, the best teams, do have that bottom 30 contributing in a positive way.
Yeah, because those bottom 30 could be guys that break curfew and go out, be kind of cancerous. And then, you have the guys that give in and buy in hope is a really big thing. Like hope, if a guy has hope, and that's on the coach, and Coach Corrigan did a great job of giving guys motivation to have hope to play. Like if you do this better, or you do this better, you will play for me. And he held his word on that. Like if they fixed those mistakes, they would come back the next season, he would play. So that hope thing is huge. And that comes from leadership. And I've learned a lot just from, I'm 34 now. I mean, I've learned a lot from those experiences of just like, oh, that guy was really trying to get me somewhere else. Like he was, building me up. You know what I mean?
Yep. And so, yeah, you had a great career and now you're in the starting role. So I want to bring us to a little bit of a dark place here, circa 2010. It's the national championship. Yeah. Notre Dame's tied with Duke 5-5 heading into overtime. They win the face-off right off the bat, first whistle. Long pole carries down the field and buries it on the doorstep. And so if you watch the YouTube video, the rerun of this clip, like they zoom in right on your face as the goalie for like a good 5 seconds. Yeah. So I guess what's going through your head in that moment right there?
So, I knew listen, I'm a showman. Yeah. I know I'm an entertainer at heart. And I knew I had the whole stadium. I had the whole weekend. That was my weekend. I mean, I did everything I possibly could. Obviously, I wish I could make that last one. But for us, it was almost like, there's a relief to it because I was going as an unseeded team with these guys, and we were battling and winning, and the highs were high, and that was a low. But it was like almost more sad that journey ended with that group. That it wasn't more that Duke beat us. Duke was sick. I mean, we beat Duke in February that year. I had 20 saves. I had to play my ass off. And I knew that they weren't even at the tip of where they were going to look like when they get to May. Right. And for us to get that win in February, I was like, this is a little fugazi. Like, this is not who they are. And Ned Crotty and Quinzani, they had some studs. And I was like, you know what? This is not who, we can feel great, but this is not who they are. So when we saw them and we played the way we played against them in the Natty Champ, it was the lowest scoring Natty Champ in history still. They're 5-5, 6-5 overtime. CJ is one of the most dynamic long poles ever. I mean, the guy's great. Everyone always thinks me and CJ got beef. The fact is, I knew his dad and my dad were talking the whole thing because his dad's a firefighter in New York City. Yep. My dad's a New York City cop, a correction officer. So those guys are two blue-collar guys. And I knew CJ's kind of a hammer like me. And I'm like, if there's one dude that's going to do it, it's going to be the guy that's like me. And he was the dude. I mean, he came right down and listen, he had to make a play and he knew he had to make a play. They didn't have their face-off guy out there. And he got it out of dub. He got a GB and he came right down the pipe.
Yeah.
So it was that, it felt like you said, it's not the greatest film, but you said they zoom in on me there. Yeah. And I know why, but I could have easily acted like a jackass.
You handled yourself great. And like I said off the top, it was a 5-6 game and you won most outstanding player of that tournament. So hats off to you.
I would trade that any day for that dub, but at the moment, that is a lot when you see a team mosh pit in your crease and you got to kind of get out of the way and you're like, that's my home, and you're like, all right, I could have easily been a little bitch about it, but I wasn't. And I was like, you know what? These guys deserved it. It was a hard game, man. It was boring at times how defensively stingy it was. It was for a guy like you, you're watching, you're probably going, dude, what is this? We're just playing great defense. Saves are happening. We played. That was our perfect game plan. We couldn't have done that any better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, hats off to you. And so I guess, did you use that loss as motivation for the rest of your career, or did you just kind of move on from it?
Just knowing that, listen, you want to win a championship. I went to a public school in Long Island. I used to play all the big dogs. I've always been a guy, we play Garden City. I'm playing at MacArthur High School. It's I'm going to make 20 saves. My boy Tintle played at UNC. I'm going to throw him the ball. He's going to score. I played with a guy named Steve Waldeck. We have three D1 guys that were handled to 8 on Garden City. So I was used to always kind of playing that underdog role. But when you eventually want to see that end, right? You want to be on these teams where, because I can tell you later, and we're going to skip to this later, but I played on the Atlas, like you said, and I was on a super team. I was on a team when I came in. I was with my 2 best friends. I'm with Paul Rabel, who runs the thing, and I'm with Hartzell. And we've always been opponents our whole career, but we're best friends off the field. So for me, I'm thinking, Paulie calls me. He's like, dude, you want to be our goalie? You're going to be our starting goalie. And I ended up getting sick and hospitalized. But the plan was, I was hell yeah. I was like, I want to go to this team. Trevor Baptiste, Ryan Brown, Kieran McCardle. I mean, the guys that we had, Tucker Durkin. We have guys that are just we were like the New York Yankees. And we had so much talent that we still went like 3-10 or 2-10. So it's like, I don't know though. Now I go back and forth, Danny. You want to be on a stick team and win a championship. You also like to do it the hard way. I think I like to do things the hard way. I really think that's me now. I just love doing things the hard way.
That's the blue collar mentality inside of you. Yeah. So let's talk about the PLL. So you were a part of the MLL, right? And so a few years ago, Paul Rabel and his brother, they started the PLL. And so you were part of the transition. As a player, were you excited about it and excited about this opportunity to play in the PLL, or were you nervous about that big transition from the MLL?
I'll tell you, personally, I love, and I played in Ohio for 4 years and won a championship. There's a great culture there. They built a stadium there. The people, the families. There's something to playing in a town, in a city. There's something to it, and there's a loyalty to it. There's a lot to it because you come to the same town. I go to the same hotel. I go to the same pregame. Me and Kyle Harrison go to the same pregame coffee shop. Going, hey, Scotty, Kyle. There's a little bit to that loyalty piece, but there's also, as a pro, we didn't have a union. We don't have. We can't really make a stand against anything.
Right.
And for us, we were sitting there going, our product on the field is so good. I mean, we are playing it hard. This isn't a beer league, man. These guys are. You've seen these games. Miles Jones, you just interviewed. He's 6'5", 250, running midfield. I mean, I'm a 6'4", 275-pound meathead goalie. Like, there's just guys are built differently in this league. It's big guys, and it's athletes that we wanted to show off. And it's like everyone always calling lacrosse guys little guys, this and that. Yeah, but the best thing about lacrosse is the little guy can still play. A Joey Sankey could be 5'4" and still go out there and go 5-5.
Yeah.
But there's an athlete to it. And that's what we wanted to see. And that's when Paulie, brought that up to me. And he's like, Scotty, listen, you're one of my good boys. And, I want you to be a part of this. I want you to let yourself really go on social media like the way you want to. I want you to be yourself. I want you to not hold back. And I was like, this is great. I mean, I'm at the end of, I was a vet in the MLL. And I was like, you know what? I really do have something to offer. People do. My fans are my fans, and the people that hate me. But either way, there's some sort of stimulation, right? So I knew right away that I could take off that way, and he wanted me to do that. So I was like, yeah, this is a good move, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about the talent, like Miles Jones, 6'5" midfielder. Then we also had on a Grant Ament earlier a week ago, and like you talk about the little guy making plays on the field, like my God.
That's like speed, quickness, intelligence, IQ, and skill, right? And then a guy like Miles, at the end of the day, he's running like a tight end down there.
Yeah.
And you're not stopping him north-south.
No chance.
So it's just an awesome, I think it's one of the rare sports where you could see those two kind of, David versus Goliath, and it's like you see it. And the matchups, you can see it all over the field. And it's like that David will win sometimes. And that's why I think it's such a great sport. I'm still waiting for it to hit where I think it's going to hit.
Yeah. And I think my next question was going to be, what are you most excited about for the future of the PLL itself?
I like to see the guys where they are. I like to see how seriously these guys are. Because back in the day, it would be like me, Harrison, guys like even older guys, Steven Berger. There was guys that took it really seriously, and they taught us. John Grant Jr. was my mentor in Toronto. I got drafted by Toronto, 7th pick overall back in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there. It was Gavin Prout, John Grant Jr., Brett Queener was there. And I kind of learned from those guys, like how to be a pro. And the Canadian guys are great because they play in the indoor league for so long. And they were already showing up to the rink in suits and doing it the right way. And it kind of brought that, like, this is a job. Like, that's a job for those guys. Even then, that was a job for them. They go to Friday night, they go to indoor, they come play that game, and they're collecting checks. It's not just, I'm going to play for fun. And that is where I started to get, like, the itch. Like, I want to make this I could do this full time. And I'm one of the like rare 6 guys that did it full time for so long because I did camps, I built clinics, I built my brand, I built my social media, and I do my whole shave my head, put my eye black on, because there was a piece of this thing that me, Paul, and Hartley used to always rap about this. There's a little entertainment to this thing.
Oh yeah.
We were WWE fans at the time. We used to go to like WrestleMania. We used to have buddies that could hook us up with seats, and we go to Monday Night Raw. We're watching the entertainment piece, and Paul would always say this. He'd always say, he'd be like, "Yo, this could be like we could do this in our game. Like we could add this like kind of entertainment piece to it, villains and there is like organically, I'm a villain organically, but there's people that actually see me as like a good guy sometimes too. But it's like you could build these characters within our game and still have a great output. And I love that idea when you told me that. I honestly did.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm a huge fan of the way it's going. Personally, I was watching the ML, like you said, great product on the field, but I think what the PLL has done, like with the little gadgets and things and games within the game, makes it really, really exciting. And so I want to hit on some off the field stuff here. And so you talk about social media, and like you said it, you're clearly a very, very active guy on social.
Yeah.
And personally, like I love it. I think it shows like a side of sports stars and athletes that like fans rarely see. And at Torch Pro, that's what we're working every day to do, is like help fans see that side of sports athletes that they don't really see. And that's through social media. So I guess my question is, like, how important is it for you to share your life and share your stories through social media and be authentic to yourself?
I think it's important that I share all those aspects of myself. I think a lot of times people want to see an athlete and they want to see like a superhero.
Yeah.
And the reality of the thing is I've been cut, I've been hurt, I've been injured, I've had adversity, everything hasn't come easy. It's not like I just show up and I'm the big rig and I'm Scotty Rodgers and I have this bravado. It's like I've built my bravado through my failures, and like my failures and my chinks in my armor have built this tough exterior that is now that I can kind of withstand some of this heat that I get, because I also know the people that are in my corner know how hard I work, know what I'm doing behind the scenes, know sometimes I'm just busting chops on here. My mother watches my social media. My mother goes, "Who are you trying to piss off today?" It's like, no, I mean, I'm out to lie. I'm like, "Mom, I'm not doing nothing." She's like, "I know what you're doing. Who are you trying to troll today?" I'm like, "I'm not trying to troll. I'm just trying to get people, thinking a little bit." And I think people take me a little too seriously, because if a lot of people that know me know I'm a pretty funny guy. I'm like a pretty funny dude. I'm not a big bully. I'm not like that. I'm a guy who used to beat the bullies up in high school. I'm that guy. I used to be a little fat kid. I grew up into a big guy. I worked out, but I worked for everything. So I'm like, also, I think I also say, I'm very, very open with this. I'm the most misunderstood dude that people will ever meet, because the people that know me are like, dude, he's freaking hilarious. If you just know him, he's hilarious. But like a lot of people like you, if I met you at a bar and we didn't know each other, I get this all the time. I'll go to a bar and I'm like, "You're that guy from social media. I thought you were going to be a bigger douche than you are." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Well, thank you." Yeah. I guess. You want to have a beer? Like,
that's a compliment.
Beer. Right? Like, I'll have a beer with you. I'm not a guy that's like, beat it. Like, it's not like that. It's just people misunderstood, but I do that to myself a little bit. But I let people get in that are close to me, and they know me.
Yeah, I think you handle yourself great. So do you remember the meme the Morning Blitz made back
Yes.
I mean, like, so we're clearly like, it's a joke and like not like can't take yourself too seriously, but I think our pro for you is like most likely to like put protein powder in people's drinks. And then it was like con was like most likely to like punch a hole in the wall or something like that. But it's like, it's just funny.
You're 100% accurate. Still, I think all my boys texted me that. I go, this is you to a T. I go, yeah, I used to do that probably in the college house a little too much.
Yeah, but I mean, just like for you, like reposting that and like embracing that is like, it's great. It's great to see, and I think more athletes should try to be more authentic about who they actually are on social media.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like I said, when I did that, I got Rambo on board to start commenting. I was like, Maddie is not a guy that takes himself seriously, and like there's guys that are good with it, and there's guys, and like every sport, there's guys that takes themselves really seriously, and you're like, all right, dude, well, I'm playing lacrosse, I'm playing for kids, our demographics kids, so our demographics, young adults and kids mostly. But I mean, listen, the kids don't want to see you being grumpy all the time. They really don't. The kids want to see you kind of. I try to do motivation, a little bit of jokesters. I joke a little bit on there. I try to be funny, and then I work hard on there. And if you take anything from it, you should take that we're always working towards what we're trying to get to as pros. We're always working when we're not. Like we don't have trainers. We don't have. Some of us do, but most of us have to do our own practice. Show up to camp, and if you don't do your job, you go home. So that means all the work you put in on your own is what you do. So that's what I try to show these kids. If I can teach them one thing, just keep working. Like, no doesn't mean no forever. It means you got cut once, you try again. That's it.
Right. And so you started this whole process of building your brand on social media, I think, probably so you could run camps and run clinics and do these one-on-one things with kids and whatnot. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, the majority of it's just like how do you build your clinics and your camps. And obviously a lot of these parents check your social media. So I'll put my drills on there. My drills are important. That's a good feeder for, oh, I watched this kid. My dad watched this with me on YouTube. I get that a lot. But also a lot of people, I love you. You're my favorite social media. Like you're funny as hell. Like, yeah, all right. Cause you know why? Cause I cuss. And I cuss not because I just cuss, that's not me. I cuss too much. Yeah. And my problem is my mom never stopped me from cussing. I'll blame her later for that. But we're a big Italian family, like big Italian, loud. People are screaming at each other on Sundays. She's cooking. People are screaming. They're eating. Cousins are running around. And I grew up in that chaos, right? It's like, it's fun to me. It's like, I like to get going and be loud and rant. And I just built it. I don't know, man. I just built it to what I think is it's just me. Honestly.
Right. Yeah. And that's why you succeed on lacrosse, but you got to be able to play in the chaos.
Yeah.
But I guess one question I had before I wanted to dive into a kind of rapid fire segment here is, so you coach a lot of kids in these clinics and one-on-ones. And so if there's one theme, regardless of position, I believe you coach more than just goalies. If there's one theme you want to pass along to these kids, what is that you preach?
I think all the cool stuff on social media that we see, right? I love those guys on East Coast Dives. I love those like outlets, all these, and I work for a lot of them. But guess what? When they post a highlight, it's a highlight because it's your highlight. It's the best of what you did. Now I want you to show your worst stuff. I want you to tell me your weakness. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and be honest when I ask you, what's your weakness? And not just go, I don't know. That's what a lot of kids do now. They'll look at you and I don't know my weakness. Yes, you do. Everyone knows their weakness. I know right now, if you want to shoot 5-hole or off stick low on me, that's going to kind of be in my head. And I got to get down there. And I just know that kids just they want to show their strengths so much now because of recruiting and all this stuff. But the reality is these coaches want a guy that is very aware of their weakness and knows that he has to work and continue to work to get better and that he is never a finished product. And that is what they want to see. And that will get you anywhere you want to go.
Yep. Having a sense of humility in this sport is important, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's great. And hey, keep at it. I think a lot of athletes can start doing more content on social media, and that will lead them to create opportunities for themselves off the field, like you did with your camps 100%. And clinics. 100%. And so, yeah, I want to dive into a rapid fire segment before we get you out of here. You can do one word, one phrase, whatever you want to do.
Cool.
But we'll fire them off. So who was your favorite athlete growing up?
Guy in my local hometown, John Vellante.
What sport's that?
He played football, but he played UFC. He was in the UFC for the last 15 years. Beast. My guy, hometown guy.
Big UFC fan.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite athlete to watch in current day sports?
Currently, Aaron Donald. I just love what that dude brings, man. It's just everything you want as an athlete.
Okay, then another question here: in Rams or Bengals in the Super Bowl? And this is probably coming out after the Super Bowl, so you're on record here. And
I got the Rams. I just think it is what it is.
Yeah,
they're powerful, dude. They're powerful.
I got the Rams too. Yeah, the Rams. What is the best moment of your own sports career?
Winning that NCAA championship with that guy. Those guys we were together with for 5 years. We were a doorstep team for a while, getting stepped on, and then we figured it out, beat those big dogs.
Hell yeah. Who's the most feared shooter you've ever faced?
I'll tell you, Brad Ross. I think he's the OC at Navy now. Where is he? Mm-hmm. Navy or Ohio State. That guy used to play at Duke, and he could shoot that ball, man. He hit me in the kneecap once, went 50 yards the other way. Yeah.
That's nuts. Who is the best player in the PLL right now? You can only pick one.
There's one of my own teammates. Tom Schreiber. Tom Schreiber's like Captain America, dude. Everything.
You answered this question already in the beginning, but I want to hear it again. Do you consider yourself a FLID?
1,000%. 1,000%, bro. Yes. That's a hard yes. Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question. What's the best concert you've seen at the infamous Jones Beach?
Man, yeah. I think honestly, I'm gonna go with I went to Bruce Springsteen with Bruce Springsteen was kind of legendary there, dude. Yeah. And like all my buddies hang out in Long Beach too. Bruce Springsteen was nice there.
That was the first concert I've ever been to. Was Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, it's good.
Not at Jones Beach, but Bruce.
It's awesome, right? Bruce is good.
Unreal. What is your biggest fear?
Letting my family down. I think anything with actions off the field, actions, and that was always my thing. Actions off the field, anything that would bring my mother or my dad shame, like, oh, dude, like that would always be my biggest fear. So I always went out with that as my incentive.
Two more here, but if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh man,
You're already the Hulk.
I'm kind of close to super strength, so I have already been close to strength. I want to go to speed. I need some speed, bro. Flash speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final one here. What is one word that best describes you?
Passionate. Everything I do. You'll see me on the field coaching. You'll see me. I'll talk to these people in these Zoom calls for this sales job. They're like, Jesus, this dude is. It could be mistaken as intense at times, which it probably is, but it's passion.
Okay, well, keep being passionate in what you do, whether it's sales, whether it's lacrosse, clinics, keep doing you. I love it. I'm a big fan. Anyone listening doesn't follow you on social media, I highly suggest. It's very entertaining. But no, Scotty, thank you for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Danny, I appreciate you having me there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, bro.